Dear students, welcome to the second lecture in pronunciation. In this lecture, as you can see in front of you, there is a figure. There is a figure in front of you. Now, this figure shows you what the organs of speech. Now, when we produce sounds, when we speak, we produce sounds. Now, these sounds, they are put in words, and it has, and these words can be heard as sounds. They come from the mouth of the speaker to the ear of the listener, and then they go to the brain, where the sounds are decoded, and then we can understand what the meaning of the words. But this, of course, takes place very quickly. Right. Now, as you can see, in front of you, it is written that, above the figure, it is written that in all languages we speak with air from the lungs. So the air comes from the lungs. See, when we breathe, we take air inside. We inhale. The word inhale, I-N-H-A-L-E. Inhale, it means we take air inside the lungs. And opposite of inhale is the word, is the word what? Exhale. H-A-L-E. So inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Right. In means inside. Opposite of in is X. So we have, as we say in Arabic, we say shahiq and zafir. Inhale is shahiq. Exhale is what? Zafir. Right. Now, this process, the process of inhale and exhale, right? Okay, just let me just check something here. Right, was it? This is the what I'm checking. Yeah, exhale. Right, just to make sure of the pronunciation. Exhale. We have inhale and we have exhale. Right. Now, when we breathe, we take air inside the inside the lungs. The lungs are full of air, and then when we exhale, we send this air out. We take it, we send it out. This is the breathing process. He says that we draw it. He means the air. We draw it into the lungs, quickly, and we release it. Release it slowly. So we take the air inside the lungs when we breathe very quickly, and we release it. We let it out slowly, and then interfere with its passage. Then interferes with its passage in various ways and at various places. and then interfere. Now, just I want you to look at the you can read these lines above the figure. He says we draw it into the lungs quickly and we release it slowly. Okay, this is clear. And then interfere with its passage in various ways and at various places. Interferes with its passage. Right. Now, what does that mean? Right. Figure 1 is a diagram showing a side view of the parts of the throat and mouth and nose, which are important to recognize for English. Now, let me clarify the point. Here, the point which he says that interferes with its passage in various ways and at various places. Now, when we breathe at night, when we sleep, we do not speak. The air what comes out is released out of the lungs, outside our mouth, and also outside our nose. Here, since we do not speak, we are silent. We do not. The air is released without any obstruction. The air goes out of the lungs smoothly without any obstruction. There are no checkpoints, if we can use this word here. I mean, metaphorically speaking, no checkpoints. The air is not stopped. The air is not obstructed. It goes out freely, or free, without any obstruction. Okay, right. Here there is no speech because it's not obstructed. Nothing interferes. There is no speech. But now I am speaking. Since I am speaking now the air that comes out of the lungs, you see that is obstructed. The air passage is obstructed. Okay, it is obstructed. At various places inside the mouth. Okay, the process of obstructing the air, the process of obstructing the air inside the mouth is very important because it is going to shape the sound. I'm now talking about yes, the sound. Let me now focus on consonant sound. So now the consonant sound, or the sound, is produced by the interference or by the obstruction of this air. And where is it obstructed? In which place? By the teeth, by the lip, by the by the soft palate, by the vocal cords, etc., etc. Now, sorry. Now, as you can see in front of you, as you can see now, the figure. First of all, we have the nose, and the noun from nose is the adjective from the word nose is the word right. Okay. The adjective from the word nose is nasal, is the word nasal. 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 So first of all, we have, as you can see in front of you, nasal, we have nasal cavity. Nasal what? Sorry. Nasal cavity. A-V-I-T-Y. Nasal cavity. This is one of the organs of speech. What else? in addition to the nasal cavity, in Arabic we say فتحة الأنف, because we breathe, air also goes through the nose, because this is what we are going to understand later, because the air also goes out or released through the nose, then this means that the nose is also considered as an organ of speech, and we have what we call nasal cavity. Since we have nasal cavity, we are also going to have what we are going to have what we call nasal sounds, right? Nasal sounds, nasal, NASAL, nasal sounds, right? Sorry, sounds, nasal sounds, right? Now, after that, we have what we call the lips. We start from when we describe these organs of speech, we start from the beginning, from the mouth, the beginning. We start with the lips, okay, and then lips. After the lips, beyond the lips, there are what we call the teeth. Right, we have the teeth. Right, and then after the teeth, inside the mouth, we have the palate. In Arabic, we call it al-hanak. That is what is the meaning of palate. I will explain this, but I'm just showing you now these the organs of speech, which we use them when we speak. These organs are responsible for the production of what? Of sound. After the palate, we have the tongue. Okay, we have the tongue. After the tongue, we have the pharynx. We have the pharynx, and after the pharynx, we have the larynx. We have larynx, PHARYNX, and then we have LARYNX. See the word pharynx and larynx, they end in YNX. Pharynx, bal'um. Larynx, hunjara. Inside the larynx, we have what we call the vocal cords. We have what we call the vocal cords. Right. We have the vocal cords. Vocal cords. Right. VOCAL, vocal cords. Right. Now, vocal is the adjective from, what is the adjective from voice? The adjective from voice is vocal. The adjective from voice is vocal. The adjective, let me write it here. I'm using small letter. The adjective, the AADJECTIV, the adjective from nose, from voice, the adjective from voice, is, the adjective from voice is vocal. As we saw in as we have just said, that the adjective from nose is nasal. And because now we are talking about, since I am talking about, I say voice, vocal, nose, nasal. Now what about mouth? Because also we use it, since the mouth, I mean inside the mouth is also, I mean what is inside the mouth is are the vocal cords. Now what about the adjective from, what about the adjective from mouth, the adjective, D-A-D-J-E-C-T-I-V-E, the adjective from mouth is verbal. Verbal. Oral is oral, or verbal. And in Arabic we say shafawi or famawi. So now we have nasal, we have vocal, we have verbal. They end in al. Al, when you see a word that ends in al, means this is an adjective most of the time. I mean, almost it is like this: nose, nasal; voice, vocal; mouth, verbal or oral. See, right. Now, after that, now see this figure. Now it shows you the organs. What? Organs of what? Of speech. Right. Now, what does he say? Now, what about, let us start with the vocal. Of course, I am going to talk very briefly about what, these organs of speech. Very briefly, let's start with the vocal cords. The vocal, V-O-C-A-L, vocal cords. Vocal cords, in Arabic we call them الأوتار الصوتية. الأوتار الصوتية. In fact, we say أوتار, but they are only two. الوتران الصوتيان. They are two. We have only two vocal cords. Two. We call them vocal cords. الوتران الصوتيان. Now, what about these vocal cords? Where are they? He says the air, I'm not going to talk in detail. I'm going to just give you an idea. Very briefly, I talk about these. The vocal cords, the first, so here now, the figure shows you the organs of speech starting from the beginning, from the nose, from the lips, and then teeth, and then palate, and then what, and then tongue, and then the pharynx, then the larynx, and then the vocal, larynx, and the vocal cords. Now we are starting from the back, not from the front. No, we start from the back. He says here that what does he say about the vocal cord? He says the air released by the lungs comes up through the windpipe, trachea, the windpipe or trachea. Right. Trachea. Windpipe or trachea. T-R-A-C-H-E-A. Trachea. Trachea means القصبة الهوائية. Windpipe. Trachea. So we say the air released by the lungs comes up through the lungs, through the windpipe, from the lungs, through the windpipe, القصبة الهوائية or the trachea, then arrives at the larynx. The neck, the front part of the neck, here we have the larynx. The larynx, as he says, contains two small bands. Wataran. Bands. Two, as he says here, the two small bands. Two, as he says. Two. Then how many vocal cords do we have? We have two. We have two vocal what? The larynx contains two small bands of elastic tissue. نسيج مطاطي, مرن, which can be thought of as two flat strips of rubber two flat strips lying opposite each other across the air passage. So now the air passage, see here, as I said at the beginning, that when we release the air from the lungs, it goes through the windpipe and then it goes what? To the larynx. This is the first, from the back, this is the first organ of speech. In the larynx, we have two vocal cords, elastic tissues, bands, and wataran, as I said here, small bands of elastic tissue. Right. Now, what these two bands, small bands of which are of elastic tissue, right? These two now are responsible for the production of air. How? Now, these vocal cords, they move inside. He says the inner edge, as you can see here, as you can read, the inner edge of the vocal cords, can be moved towards each other so that they meet and completely cover the top of the windpipe, or they can be drawn apart so that there is a gap between them, known as the glottis, through which the air can pass freely. This is their usual position when we breathe quietly in and out. Now, what does this mean? Now, I said that the vocal cords which are inside the larynx. Now, these vocal cords are two. They move. These two bands, they move towards each other. Okay, they move inside towards each other. Just like when you have your fingers, your index finger and your big or large finger, the middle finger. Now you can move them just like this. These two, when you move your fingers, one finger, the middle finger and the index finger, they are, let's say that the middle finger is one vocal cord and the index finger is another vocal cord. So you can move them. Sometimes you can move them together where there is no cavity, totally closed. And when these two bands touch each other very tightly, they do not allow the air to come through, to be released. We stop. As we in Arabic, just I want to mention something here. You see, in Arabic we have hamzat qata. You see, hamzat qata. Glottal, glottal stop, hamzat qata. Okay, from the glottis, right? What happens here? The two bands, الوتران الصوتية, they come to each other, they touch each other very tightly, very tightly. They do not allow the air to come out. This is we in Arabic. And then when we release the air, this will gives me a sound. This is what we, in Arabic, we have what we call hamzat qata. What does it mean, hamzat qata? Hamzat qata means we stop the air, we naqta as-sawt, naqta. And then we release the vocal cord, we release them. This process gives me a sound. In Arabic, we call it hamzat qata. In English, by the way, we will, God willing, I'll show you when we meet in the classes that in Londoners, they have the accent where they use what we call glottal stop. They do not say what. They use it instead of stop sounds, right? Stop sound. Instead of saying, for example, good boy, good, good. They do not say good, they say good boy. Hamza qata here. Okay, this is not the time to talk about it, but I'm just referring to this point. That is, the vocal cords, when they touch each other very quickly, tightly, they do not allow any air to come out. In that case, the air will be obstructed inside the larynx, inside the larynx, because it is obstructed. It is obstructed by the closure of the vocal cords. When we release it, then the air that comes up in the mouth, and then then it goes out. Right. I don't want to. So the vocal cords, as I said just now, that they are either touch each other very tightly. Then we have a total closure of the vocal cords, or sometimes no, we do not close they touch each other. The vocal cords touch each other, but not tightly. There is a small cavity between the two bands, between these two cords. This cavity, we call it the glottis. We call it the glottis, as he says here, glottis. So what does the word glottis refer to? Glottis, 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 glottis. Glottis means the cavity. Glottis means the cavity, fatha, between the two bands. We call it what? Glottis. He says when there is the gap between the two cords, or the glottis, through which the air can pass freely. When the two bands do not close, they do not touch each other tightly. No, there is a gap, or there is a gap. Now through this gap, the air can pass freely. So I'm repeating freely here is an adverb. بحرية. This is their usual position when we breathe quietly in and out. Okay. When we breathe, while breathing, there is a small cavity, and when we breathe, the vocal cords do not close. No, there is a glottis, there is a cavity, there is a space between the two cords. Through this space, the air goes through the mouth and goes out. This is the normal process, the normal breathing process, process at night when we sleep. Okay? This is what we mean by, this is as far as what vocal cord. You see, I don't want to talk about it more because we don't have, I want to start with something else. Then, sorry. After that, we have the palate. The palate. Now, the palate, or what we call al-hanak. Okay, al-hanak. The palate is divided. Let me go back to the figure. You can see the palate in front of you, the palate, which is the upper part of the mouth. The upper part of the mouth, upper part of the mouth, we call it the palate, al-hanak. Al-hanak. Now, the al-hanak is divided, the palate is divided into three parts. The first part is the alveolar ridge. Alveolar ridge. Alveolar ridge starts immediately after the upper teeth. And the area beyond, immediately or touching the upper teeth, we call it alveolar ridge. When we go deep, or when we go inside the mouth, then we have, you can touch it, you can feel it with your tongue. There is what here we call it hard palate. يعني الجزء الخشن. And after the hard palate, the الجزء الخشن the hard palate. So the hard palate is divided into three parts. First of all, we have the alveolar ridge, which are immediately beyond the tongue, and then we have the rough part of the palate, or we call it hard palate. الحنك جزء الحنك الخشن. And then beyond, after that, we have the soft palate. So now the palate is divided into first of all, to start with the alveolar ridge, and then after that we have the hard palate, and then we have the soft palate. The soft palate, right, okay. Now the soft palate, there is something here concerning the soft palate. What is it? At the end of the soft palate, or the soft palate is movable. The soft palate is movable. اللهات in Arabic we call it اللهات. Now, اللهات is can move either up or down. Can move either up or down. Now, this is the soft palate, or the velum, or also we call it the velum. We call it the velum. Also, we call it the velum. We call it the velum. The velum. The velum. V-E-L-U-M. The velum. Now, what about the velum? The soft palate, as I said, I'm sorry, can either move up or down. Here it is very important. So we said, first of all, the beginning of the hard palate, the alveolar ridge, the middle, the hard palate, the end, the soft palate or the velum. The velum is movable. Al-lahat. In Arabic we call it lahat. Now, it works just like a valve. This valve, if it goes up, the valve, the soft palate, the velum, when it goes up, it closes the nasal cavity. It closes the nasal cavity. And it means that the air does not go through what? Through the air. No. Through the nose. No. It goes through the mouth. But when this soft palate or the velum comes down, lowered, no, here it allows, it opens the nasal cavity. It opens the nasal cavity, and the air can go what? Through the nose. The velum, it has what we call a neutral position. You see, at night when we sleep, sometimes we breathe out or we exhale air either through the nose or through the mouth. So it has a neutral position. It is neither closed, the velum, neither closed nor what? Opened. Okay, here, so it allows air to go through the nose and through what? Through the mouth. This is the as far as the soft palate. Right. Now, what else? After that, we have the teeth. We have what? The teeth. The teeth, they are considered as what? Organs of speech. Right. What does he say? If you open your book, on page 17, you can see that the writer says that, what does he say? He says the lower front teeth, he said teeth. When we say teeth, means upper teeth and lower teeth. But what does he say? Now, which of the teeth, the upper or the lower, are going to be used? Let us see. He says the lower front teeth, the lower, are not important in speech, except that if they are missing certain sound. Example, se and ze will be difficult to make. What does that mean? He says the lower front teeth are not important in speech. And the lower teeth are not important in speech. But when, except that if they are missing, certain sound examples will be difficult to make. Now, when you, for example, when you extract, or when you have some of these lower front teeth dropped, you are going to have a problem with producing sounds such as what? Se and ze. What about the two upper front teeth? The two upper front teeth are used in English to some extent. Put the tip of the tongue very close to the edge of these teeth and blow. This will produce a sound like the sound that the English the in thin. Now, if you turn on the voice during this turn on the voice through this th sound, you will get a sound like the English what? The. What does that mean? Right. This means that try putting your tongue between the what? The upper teeth and the tip of the tongue, between the upper teeth, as he said, very close to the edge of these teeth, and blow. This will produce a sound like the sound, the. If you turn on the voice during this turn on, this voice during this the sound, you will get a sound like what? The English the in this. Now, what does that mean? That if you press firmly on the upper teeth, press firmly on the tip of the tongue, that will produce the. But if you press smoothly, no, that is going to be the sound. The. The and the are represented. The and the are represented by the what? By the letters in English. I mean, as I said, you remember last time when I said one of the sufferings in English is that we use two letters to represent one sound. This is one of the sufferings. See here in the word, for example, mouth, M-O-U-T-H, mouth. Now here the TH is pronounced as the. But for example, while in the word B-R-E-A, sorry, B-R-E-A-T-H-E, breathe here, THC, we have mouth ends in TH, but there is E after the TH in breathe. So how do we pronounce it? We say breathe. The. So I do not, yes, in both positions, in the and the upper teeth are touching the tip of the tongue, but it is firmly in the, but it is a smooth wherein the. This of course changes or gives you this change in the how much do you press, this will change what, will give you what, a different sound. The, and the. More air, more pressure you need in the, but you need less where in the. Right. Later on, I'll add more on this. What about the tongue? The tongue. He says the tongue, which you have it on page 17, says the tongue is the most important. The tongue is the most important of the organs of speech, because why is it? Because it has the greatest variety of movement. The greatest variety of movement. It's the most important organ of speech, or most important organs, the most important, the tongue is the most important organs of speech, the most important of the organs, most important of the organs of speech, because it is what? It has the greatest variety of movement. The tongue is used in the production of sound, whether vowel sounds and consonant sound. On page 18, you can see that the tongue, figure 6, the parts of the tongue. We have in the same way that the hard palate, the palate is divided into alveolar ridge, into the hard palate, in the soft palate. The tongue is also divided into the tip of the tongue, tip of the tongue. After the tip, we have blade. So we have the tongue, we have blade. First of all, we have the tip, طرف اللسان, tip of the tongue. Then we have blade and nasal. Then we have front, and then we have what? The back of the tongue. So now the tongue is divided into 4 parts. Now these parts of the tongue, because of the movement, he says it, the greatest variety of movement, because of the tongue is flexible. It can move up and down. It can go to the right, to the left. It can be, you can bend it, you can straighten it. Now all these movements of the tongue will give what? Sound, will affect the shape of the sound. I don't want to talk more about the tongue. After that, we have the lips. And the lips, we have upper lip, and the what? Upper lip and the lower lip. Right. Now, what about the lips? He says it is obvious that the lips can take up various different positions. They can take various different positions. They can be brought firmly together. It means you can move the lips in different in places. When you bring them together, when you bring the 2 lips together, in that case, they completely block the mouth. Right. So now we have sounds like pe, like be, like me. Now these sounds are produced by blocking the air. How do we block the air? By what? By the lips. The lower lip, the lower lip and the upper lip, they touch what? Each other. They come very tight. They touch each other very tightly. They do not allow any air to move. The mouth is blocked. Masdood. But sometimes you see no. Sometimes, and sorry, when we block when we block the mouth, and then we open it, that will give me sounds like pe, and like the be, and like the me sound. Also we have we. Sometimes no, as he says here. The lower lip can be drawn inward and slightly upwards, inward and upward, to touch the upper teeth, as in the sound fe, and the. So you can see now how the tongue, the lips, when they are brought into move in various positions, they produce sound. When the upper lip and the lower lip touch each other very tightly, like this, that will produce what? The sound pe, and the sound be, and the sound me, and the sound we also. But when the here just the lips, But sometimes the lips, the lower lip, we what do we do with the lower lip? Drawn inward, inside, and slightly upwards, inwards and slightly upward. Then what happens? The front teeth, they touch the front teeth. That will produce or give us what? Sound, like the sound fe and the sound what? Ve. And they sometimes, the first position, when they totally close, the air is totally blocked. This is one position that produce what sounds like pe, be, and me. Or sometimes when the lower lip touches the upper teeth, it is drawn inside and then a little and upward, and then it touches the upper teeth. Here, when it touches, it does not touch very firmly like in the pe, be. No, there is a very small cavity through which the air can pass, and that produces the sound like fe and the sound what? The. Also, the tongue, the lips can be kept apart, either flat or flat. They can be flat, or mustawiye, or they can be what? Or with different amounts of rounding, da'iriyya. Like, see, for example, when you produce the sound flat, they are apart, منفصلة. But when you produce the sound al-waw in Arabic, and the sound school. This here, the lips are what? Are round. So now, I hope now this is in this lecture I have shed the light I don't want to say that I have clarified everything completely thoroughly. No, I'm not saying this. But sorry, at least you have an idea about now the sound. How are sound produced? They are sound are produced by the interference of the, or by the help, or with the help of, or by means of what, the organs of speech, which are given to you here. These organs of speech are responsible for the name given to the sound, especially consonant sound. Okay, now in the next lecture, I am going to show you. I'm going to repeat this. I'll give you, first of all, I'll repeat, and then I'll give you the consonant sounds. The consonant sound. How the consonants? How many consonant sounds do we have? We have 24 consonant sounds. These consonant sounds are classified in terms of where they are produced, yani which organ of speech is responsible, and how. What happens to that organ of speech, and what happens to that organ of speech, or organs of speech? What do they? What do they do? How these produce? How they are produced? We are going to classify consonant sound in terms of where they are produced. I mean, which organ of speech is responsible? The teeth, the tongue, the lips, the alveolar ridge, the hard palate, the soft palate. Okay, inside the larynx, where? And how they are produced. I mean, how they are produced. What happens to that organs of speech so that that sound will be produced? This is, I am going to show it to you through a chart, jadwal. I'll show you the 24 consonant sounds, how they are produced. And after that, God willing, when I finish talking about consonants, I will move to vowel sound. I will explain them one by one within examples, within words. Thank you very much, and I hope that we will meet soon in the classroom. Thank you very much.
من تريد تفتح يعني الصورة تقربها غاب عليه وهيك تسوي زوم. من تريد ترجع هاي السهم تريد تكتب شي جوا.
تعال بابا تروح نسأل. بس هذا سجل مو ده يسجل بعدين ساعة مو